Hello, everyone, and welcome to Edinburgh, where we are today with our guide and storyteller, Fred. This is a special live because we will do a Halloween edition because Halloween is coming very soon. So I will let you, Fred, if you can go on and start the tour.
Hello, everybody. I hope you're well. Here in Edinburgh, we have a dry day, even though it's autumn. It's a bit chilly today, but welcome to all of you. Welcome to Scotland. Welcome to Edinburgh. So we're here on the high street of the Royal Mile, which is the main thoroughfare within the old town of Edinburgh, because we're very lucky. We have two cities in one, the old town and the new town. We are now on the high street, but the Royal Mile is in 5 sections. The upper sections is Castle Hill, where the castle sits on at the very top of the Royal Mile behind me. And then we have the Lawn Market, then the High Street where we are, and we'll go down towards the Canon Gate. And the last section in front of the Palace of Holyrood House at the very bottom of the Royal Mile is Abbey Strand. So here we go. Let's visit the old town of Edinburgh. And I think to give you a taste of Scotland, we could have a look at this beautiful shop. So let me turn the camera now. Yes. Here we have beautiful kilts. That's the kind of dress you would hire or buy to go to a wedding, for example. Here you go. This is a taste of Scotland, isn't it? Bit of tartan, you can't beat that. And on the other side of the street, we have those beautiful buildings with very steep closes and streets going down to the bottom of a valley on either side of the mile. So this beautiful building here, you can tell, is the Radisson Blu. It looks like a very, very old building. But if you look at this sign just here, where is it? It's there. It gives you the date of the building, 1990. So don't get tricked by these old buildings. And just nearby, this is a pub, a beautiful pub. Bit like a Roman villa. Just behind me is a church, the Tron Kirk. Oh, plenty history to tell you about that. You'll have to visit. I cannot tell you everything in an hour. And up there, the beautiful church you can see with a very Gothic top is St. Giles Cathedral. Beautiful cathedral to visit. Well, it's not a cathedral actually, even though it keeps the name. It's the High Kirk of Scotland, a Presbyterian church. So now I think it's time to go further down the mile. Come with me, and I will introduce you to some of the most beautiful buildings. The flags up there, still hanging in the lower part of the mile, are the arms of some of the most important families here in Scotland. They have been hanged up there to welcome the Queen when she came in last July, before heading up to Balmoral. And then you have a very bright, colorful building just there with a kind of wooden attic hanging over the stone parts. Well, when they renovate a building here in the old town, they try to keep the traditional ways of building. So there used to be some wooden attics at the top of the very tall buildings at the time, and now they recreated some kind of wooden attics. It's much more comfortable today. And the bright colors, we'll see some more on the way down, tells you how powerful and wealthy was the family living there. Of course, when you are in Scotland, you can't miss a good pub. And here we have two of them. The Mitre, just here, and the Royal Mile, just down there. But now I decided we're going to cross over here. So you see it's a bit busy. The traffic might be a bit loud sometimes. There are some works going on a bit further down. So if it's too loud, I might have to turn down the volume just for you to not be bothered too much. So this Royal Mile is steep as well. The beautiful Castle of Edinburgh is at the very top, and the Palace of Holyrood House at the very bottom. Traditional tenement buildings of the old towns. This is Blackfriar Street. It is a street today, but it used to be a close. A close is how we call those narrow alleyways on either side of the mile. This name is just because they were enclosed. There was a gate at the top and another one at the bottom to protect the people living there from the criminals, the drunkards, and the potential English invader. I'm getting closer from this beautiful building here, which is not a recreation, but a real 16th century building. The date inside is 1564. It was the Regent Morton building. He was regent to James VI of Scotland, the future James I of England. And the Regent Morton has been his regent for a few years, the most powerful man in Scotland, the one who brought back in town a kind of guillotine called the Maiden of Edinburgh, which you can find at the National Museum of Scotland today. All the museums being free here in Scotland, it would be very easy for you to see this. Unfortunately, the poor man was beheaded on its own guillotine. And yes, we do have a Christmas shop. It's there all year long, not only open for Christmas. And some lovely shops selling you all kind of beautiful scarves, tartans, shirts. I'm going to cut the sound here for a few seconds. Just time to go away from the noise. Oh, damn, I didn't. It's now over. All right, indeed, the works here, they are doing again the pavement, traditional pavement. You can see the cobbles just there. So it can be a bit noisy at times. Here you can see it a bit better. So we keep the traditional ways definitely here in Edinburgh. We try to keep the city as it was traditionally built in the past centuries. So this is another close. It's called South Grey Close. It leads to tenements, and the closes can be named after three different things, either from a building within, and you can tell that you can have a coffee or something to eat at any time, and if it's bright and sunny, even on a terrace. There you go. So, for example, there is an old assembly close. An assembly was an assembly of dancers. So this name comes from a building within. Something else traditional here, fudge. And this is a shop selling fudge. That's very sweet. Sometimes they are outside offering you to taste one. You want to walk at the same time and grab one. And here we have two of the most ancient houses along the mile. The white one is called the John Knox house. Today, the seat of the storytelling center. It's a 16th century house, renovated many times, and you see the wooden attics on the top. To the left, the brown ones with this brown wooden attic as well is even older, 15th century. It's Mowbray House. Beautiful house. So you can visit John Knox house and you'll see inside the traditional house as it used to be. Wooden panels, hand painted, the original fireplace, the floor, everything is original and you can visit it. Now Mowbray House is still private, but the house has already been given to the city of Edinburgh by their owners. So you can visit this beautiful house, maybe in some years. Names of closes can also come from an individual who used to live in the close, so someone important, someone influential. And then finally, you can also find closes named after a trade or a profession. So we have advocate close, for example. We have the old fish market close. We also have the flesh market close. So the fleshers were actually the butchers. No ladies down there. But now I'm going to take you away from the mile and we're going to visit the beautiful Tweedale Court. Let's see what's going on at the other end of the tunnel. There is still the gate closing the court. The name of this court is from the house you see in front of you at the very bottom. This was the house of the Marquess of Tweedale, 16th century house as well. But this very location was used as a filming site for the TV series Outlander. So you have enough here, maybe to guess which moment was filmed here. Because you see Jamie and Claire moving up the street. You also see this arch here. A young gentleman is showing up from here. So, well, we'll leave you some time to maybe find out what scene was filmed of the TV series. Now, this house was also used by an editor, and this beautiful building here was its storage area. So you can see there is a window bigger than the others just there, with a crane still there, lovely arranged now with few flowers. I think it's a great idea to keep this crane. It tells you about the past of the building. They use this crane to lift up the reels of paper and store them inside the building, which is quite an amazing building. Today there are people living there, and there are some offices as well. Now, just behind me here is one of the first defensive walls of the city. This is the King's Wall. It was built around 1450 to defend the city under James II. James II was one of the Stuart family, the longest reigning family over Scotland. They reigned for about 300 years. And in the corner there is a little, like a shed. Can you see this shed just here? It doesn't look much, but this is a classified building. This is the last sedan chair shed in Edinburgh. Sedan chair was very fashionable here in the 18th century until early 19th century. Because indeed, the wealthy would hire them or sometimes own their own sedan chair. This would allow you to stay above the filth, because like everywhere in Europe, people didn't have any sanitation here, no running water, no sewers of any kind. There was no toilets. So they lived with a bucket in the corner of the room. The poor were large families living in only one room, crammed in there with that bucket in the corner. And if the cat had died that day, that's where it would end up as well. So the wealthy wanted to stay away from this filth. Using a sedan chair was a great way. Early 19th century, when the Highlanders were forced off their land and came down, for some of them, in the lowlands in Edinburgh. Well, they were farmers, strong and burly men, so they were usually the ones carrying those sedan chairs. And then the sedan chair is just a wooden box. It is quite small, so it would allow you to go down the narrow closes and wynds along the Royal Mile, where you cannot take a coach and a horse. Absolutely not. You have a few sedan chairs at the Museum of Scotland as well, if you want to have a look at that. But today we are also doing a tour on the theme of Halloween. So while we are so quiet and peaceful here, enjoying these beautiful surroundings, I might tell you a bit about Halloween in Scotland. So actually Halloween stems from ancient celebrations rooted in Celtic soil, Halloween is the time of the dead. Celtic people split the year into two, the light half and the dark half. So it was very easy. So Samhain, as we call it, the Halloween of the pagans, is celebrated on the 31st of October. It tells you that winter is coming, and Samhain means summer's end. Now on the opposite side of the year is Beltane. Beltane is celebrated on the 30th of April, and it announced the arrival of summer. So it's very much connected to nature, really. The trees have changed colors, the leaves have fallen, the last of the crops has been harvested and stored away, safe from the elements. The weather changes, it turns colder. Now sometimes some of the crop is left in the field as offerings to the fairy folk. Livestock is reduced as well, because you need a lot of resources to feed them all. So they just kept a small numbers for breeding mostly, and the others were slaughtered. So it was a time of feasting and preserving as well for winter to come. So it is definitely a time of feasting and a time of death. Their belief was quite simple. They believed in life after death. There was the realm of the dead, where the dead would go when they die, and another realm parallel, the realm of the living. Together with the dead, the fairies were there as well, and all manners of weird folks as well. Actually, death was considered as just another stage of life. It was quite simple. But it was possible to journey to the other realm only at the time of Samhain, when the veil between the realm of the dead and the realm of the living became so thin. So the living could visit the realm of the dead, and the dead could visit the realm of the living. There will be more, but for now, we're going to go a bit further down the Royal Mile. I hope you liked this beautiful Tweedale Court. Maybe you now have found which scenes of Outlander were filmed in there. Please let me know if you know.
Thank you, Fred. First of all, thank you for this story that was very well told, and we got carried away, so thank you very much. About the scene that was filmed there, I don't think anyone found, so maybe I'll let you explain to us.
Okay. Well, very simply, they filmed the marketplace in Tweedale Court. So it's quite easy. When Claire came back through the stones 20 years later, trying to find her lovely Alexander Malcolm as a printer in Edinburgh, they had just met, and then they go to find to go to they are going actually to the World's End pub, which is the one I'm showing you right now. That's where they are heading to, because Jamie's got some business to do here. And while they are in that market, suddenly a young Fergus showed up. So Claire meets Fergus again 20 years later. He was absolutely sure she was dead, and he's quite stunned and happy to see her alive. So it's a great moment of gathering again that happens in this marketplace. And then they are all heading to the World's End pub that I'm showing you here. This is a very meaningful name, in it, the World's End pub, because indeed this was the end of the world for most of the population of Edinburgh. Why is that? Well, just here you see there is a crossing. The Royal Mile is going further down, changes name into the Canon Gate. And I will show you some brass cobbles on the ground. In the middle of the Royal Mile, just here, you have those weird cobbles of different color showing you where used to be an important building. They show you the exact location. So this building here was actually the main eastern gate to enter the city of Edinburgh. So right now I'm just standing at the entrance here. You see the cobbles on the right, on the left, and you've got some more here. There were two towers on either side. And you can still see in the cobbles the round shape of those towers here. When you go beyond, further down the Royal Mile, then you were out of the city of Edinburgh. You were in the wilderness. You were where the English were. Very scary. So this gate was called the Netherbow Port. And you had to pay a toll at the gate to enter the city of Edinburgh. So the poorest population of Edinburgh, who couldn't afford to pay that toll, would never venture outside of the city. And they would be born and live and die within the walls of the city without never seeing what was outside. There used to be along this street here the Flodden Wall, a defensive wall around the city of Edinburgh, leading to the gates. So we are now crossing over into the Canon Gate. And if you keep... Oh, the sun is back. I'm not sure you can see it, but just there is a sign telling you both names, Royal Mile and Canon Gate. So this up there was Edinburgh, with the tall tenement buildings, pretty basic ones, just to stuff the huge population. And down there, the Canon Gate, the neighbor borough of Edinburgh. So we're going to go further down now. It is a quiet part of the Royal Mile. And you can see a little police box just there. So today, those police boxes were put into place early 20th century. They used to have a telephone in there. The policeman could have a break, have a sandwich. And if you had an accident, needed to call the police, that's where you would go and call them from there. Now, a lot of police boxes disappeared. Fortunately, many have been transformed into something else. And this one is now called the Canon Gate Cafe. I actually got the cheapest coffee there ever, 50p, a really good coffee. And now that we have the sun, I can take you to have a look at Carlton Hill. So at the end of the street, you can see here round towers. This is what's left of the jail, Carlton Jail. And it's in the sun today, it's amazing. So a good part of it was demolished, and now instead there is St. Andrew's building, which is actually the office of the Parliament, where they do the administrative part of it. But on Carlton Hill there are plenty other monuments, including a time ball that I will show you later on. Carlton Hill is a wee hill at the end of Princes Street to the east, and up there, that's where today Samhain and Beltane are celebrated. I have to say that it's a great celebration. It's a fire festival, means that it takes place at night with a lot of torches, a lot of fire, a bonfire as well, usually, and it's a real pagan festival. So people dress up and paint their bodies in the different parts of nature and of seasons. So you have the birdies, you have the red, the blue, the white, and there are always some main characters. So for Beltane, you have the May Queen, for example, and the Winter King. So the Winter King has to die because it's the end of winter, and the May Queen will revive him for nature to reappear and become green again. And then at Samhain, it's a battle of two kings, the King of Winter and the King of Summer. So there is a lady mastering all that, being the head of all of it. It's the Cailleach. The Cailleach is a wise woman, is a goddess. And she can be the young girl in spring, the woman in summer, and the old crone when winter comes. She is the one who prepares the ground for the big battles to come. Even though we know that the Winter King has to die, or the Summer King had to die, depending on the celebration, well, things must happen. They must take place. And the Cailleach is there to make sure everything is in order and nature can go on. So this is on Carlton Hill. That's usually the celebrations of Beltane and Samhain takes place. So you'll see we have also a lot of churches everywhere. So some are still churches. You can the faith here is Protestant, mostly Presbyterian. That's the Church of Scotland or New Church of Scotland. Oh, and if you'd like to do a tour of chocolate, here is your shop. That's quite cool, isn't it? Chocolatarium.
Just letting you know, Fred, as you asked me, we have 25 minutes left for the tour.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. So we're going to head a bit further down. Well, if you'd like an afternoon tea, I do recommend Mimi's Little Bakehouse, just here. This is a wonderful address of very good traditional food. It's called Cranachan and Crowdy. So you'll see many arches like those here, because traditionally shops had counters. You wouldn't enter a shop to go and buy what you wanted. You would wait at the counter. And everybody knows it's never raining in Scotland, absolutely never. So they created those arches at the entrance to the shops in order to be able to be sheltered from the rain. So as you can see, there are many little corners like that. The mile is just here. And we went through the arches and find this lovely, peaceful garden. Again, another house, brightly colored, which has a weird story. This used to be the tax office of the Canon Gate. So this is a beautiful building, isn't it? So there is a ghost story related to this building here. Indeed, one night in the 18th century, a priest was working late. He was writing at his desk, and the hour was really, really late. And suddenly he heard knocking at the door. How come? It's not a time for a visit. So he opened the door, and two thugs were there. Come with us. You need to give the last rites. Well, don't you think it's a bit late? Do not discuss. Come with us. And he's been blindfolded and thrown down the stairs and into a sedan chair, transported over the cobbles to another house. He was pushed up the stairs and he heard the door creaking open. He was pushed in that room. He took off the fold and he realized, while his eyes were adapting to the candlelight, that he was in a very richly furnished bedroom. And in the bed, there was a young woman weeping and weeping. She was cradling a young baby, newly born. The thugs ordered him to give them the last rites. And he said, but that's not possible. I cannot do that. They seem to be very healthy, both of them. Do it. He found the muzzle of a pistol on his head. So he did it. They were now ready to die if necessary. And he's been pushed down the stairs again, blindfolded again. And suddenly he heard bang, bang, two gunshots. Oh my God, what just happened? What did I do? What did I do? And pushed again, shoved into that sedan chair. He was brought back to his house. One of the thugs put some money in his hand and told him, not a word about what happened tonight, or you're gonna die. That night the poor priest couldn't sleep at all. He was turning and tossing, thinking about that poor woman. He just gave the last rites and allowed them to kill them. And in the morning her servants arrived. Father, Father, have you heard about the great fire in Chester's Court, where we are standing now? There are rumors that a woman died in this fire, and other rumors saying that she was actually in love with a young man, but the family didn't want him as a husband. Now all became clear. They preferred killing part of their family than the dishonor this could have brought to them. He didn't say a word until the day of his death, and on his deathbed he told one of his friends, Andrew Pittscotty, a scholar, Thanks to him, we know this story today. But then this beautiful red building burnt, and there were some witnesses around. They said that they saw in the flames a young woman cradling a baby. And she talked. She said, "I've burned once, I've burned twice, but the next time I will burn you all." Do you think the people who live here do know that the building is cursed? That the next time when there will be a third fire, everybody might burn with it? No, they just go to their daily life. How sweet is the city of Edinburgh. Well, when you come and visit, you probably won't see Cheshire Court with the same eyes, remembering this ghost story. So let's proceed further down and see a bit more of the Royal Mile.
Paul is asking if this is actually a true story.
Absolutely true. You know that people believe in ghosts. So if someone said they saw it, well, they saw it. There is no doubt about that. So, did you know that the living could visit the dead at Samhain? It did happen every time during Samhain. That's when the veil is so thin that they can do it. Usually it's more by accident, sometimes willingly. So to reach the realm of the dead, you have to go underground, usually under a hill, could be in a grotto, in a cave, or sometimes in a fairy circle. But then when you come back, you'll find very weird how the time has passed differently from one realm to another. You stayed only for a few days in the realm of the dead, and when you come back, generations have passed. You cannot find your loved ones. You will find your descendants. This is the beautiful house of a countess, the only one with a balcony. Can you see the balcony here? A house which used to have beautiful orchards and gardens at the back that the King Charles II loved to visit regularly. Now, obviously, the veil being so thin, the dead can visit us as well. There are some dead we'd like to see again. So for those, we would set up a dumb supper. So a dumb supper is an extra space you set on the table. You prepare a great meal, because it's feasting, of course, and there will be an empty chair and a plate full of food to make sure that the loved ones you wish to see will visit you that night. You can put a candle at your door. The candles attract the spirits. But if you put a candle in a jack-o'-lantern, then you would make sure with his scary face to repel the unwanted visitors. Now we're here in front of the toll booth, of the Canon Gate. Because it is a different borough from Edinburgh, it has its own toll booth, which was an administrative building, mostly the prison, but also the council, the court, a place for the assemblies to gather. There is a tavern today, but it's pretty recent. It's 1820, while the building is 1500, 1501 exactly. And if you have a sharp eye, so there used to be stairs outside like that. That's quite traditional. And just behind the cone, the orange cone, there is a wee door at ground level. This wee door is actually a cell. There is a 5-foot drop just behind, and they would throw you in there in case you were caught drunk in the city. Now, in addition to the pub, within this part of the building here is another museum, the Museum of the People's Story, free like all the other museums in Edinburgh. It's an amazing place where you can go back in time and see the kind of trades people were dealing with, how they used to live, the role of the city guards. Quite interesting. The building to my right is called the Talking House. Because you see here, there are some sentences in Latin giving messages to the people here. So when the man built that building here, people didn't like it. So they were speaking ill about it. So there is one of those sentences saying something like, I do what I want, you think what you want, I don't care. And now we're going to enter Bankhouse Close, which is an amazing close again, where Outlander was filmed. So if I show you this here, the fans should recognize immediately what it's all about. Because those steps leading up to a door, and then the two wooden buildings behind, might remind them of something. So I'm not going to tell you right now. Again, I leave you a bit of time, and maybe some of you will come up with what it represents in Outlander. Voilà, that's the part of the garden of the museum as well, with plenty old stones. It's a treasure here. And there another old house. I'm going to go up the steps and showing you the court. Voilà, there is a court inside there, can you see? This is also has been used as a filming location for Outlander. It was a grand house, Hutchinson House. So on the little pointy rooftops on top of the upper windows, there are letters which are the initials of the married couple for whom the house was built. So AA is Archibald Hutchinson, and MH is Margaret Hamilton, his wife. And the door you can see in the courtyard to the right was used on Outlander. You can tell this is a very old close. Look at this building here. It's a bit like a patchwork made of bits and pieces, demolished, rebuilt, changed, extended. Quite an amazing place to visit indeed. Now the arms of the Hutchinson family is on the opposite door. You need to enter the courtyard to see it. And it was a cockerel and a trumpet. But like in Outlander, the ground level of this house was at some point used as a brothel. So the cockerel and the trumpet became the cock and the strumpet. Well, another fantastic course, especially a day like today, when we have some sun absolutely everywhere. And now I'm going to reveal you a secret. Do not tell anyone, because it's a secret. But on this side of the archway, you'll see something white. Can you see that? Oop-la-pla. Can you guess what this could be? The white thing in between the stones. I won't tell you straight away. I will let you think about it. I'm going to show you some more, and maybe you'll guess. Just tell me. So from here, this is the toll booth again. And if you look at the very top of the wall, up there on the wall, there are some white patches within the wall. Hopefully you can see them. It's exactly the same I've just shown you embedded in the wall. So I will let you think about it. Have a guess. Tell me what you think this could be. Oh, there is something going on, a funeral. Because we are now standing just in front of the church, the Canon Gate kirk, because the church is a kirk in Scots. And obviously, because this is a neighbour borough of Edinburgh, it's got its own toll booth, its own church, its own graveyard, as well as its own Mercat Cross. The four essential things you find in any city here in Scotland. So unfortunately, I see some military there and a hearse, so this might be a funeral. We'll try to make ourselves pretty discreet. So here there are some celebrities buried in the Canon Gate graveyard, and one's got some special cobbles. Adam Smith, the father of the economy. So you can follow his path. This will lead you to this great grave just there. You see the bars, the black bars. So that's where today the many fans of Adam Smith come and visit him. And this is the back of the toll booth, of course. So we are now in the graveyard, and you can see all the graves, all different. And you might think, well, the bigger, the taller one is probably the most influential man in town, like this one here. But he was actually a plumber, but a very rich one, of course. There are many other celebrities here. At the entrance to the graveyard, there was a statue of a wee man, a young man, 24 years old. That's his grave. Robert Fergusson, a young poet, the first one who wrote his poems in Scots. And he was quite an inspiration for Robert Burns, the Scottish bard, and Robert Louis Stevenson. Unfortunately, he died so young because he bumped his head or he got a brick on his head. We are not quite sure, but, well, they couldn't mend him. So they sent him to an asylum where he died 2 years later. And in front, just what you see here is Carlton Hill again. So this used to be the Royal College, this kind of Greek building. It's not been used for years and years. They have been trying to find a new convenient use for it. It's not been very easy. There is an idea who came up recently. It could have been turned into something cultural, which is absolutely great. And the kind of tower you are here is Nelson Tower. At the very top of the tower, there is a white cross. And at the bottom of this cross is a black ball. This is actually a time ball falling down the mast at 1 p.m. every day. It was to help the ships in the Firth of Forth on the other side to the north to set up their watches properly. So at 1 o'clock, they would set them up at 1 o'clock. Unfortunately, in Scotland, it can get a bit misty sometimes. The mist, we call it the Har, H-A-A-R. It's rolling up from the River Forth. And when it's all misty up there, the ships couldn't set up their clocks and watches when the time ball was falling. So they decided to couple it with a gun shot at the castle. So every day, since 1861, we still have the 1 o'clock gun going on at 1 o'clock every day from the castle. And you can see the difference in people. If they jump, they don't know about it. If they don't, they just set up their watch. So we're still in the graveyard of the Canon Gate here, and I have a very interesting grave to show you. It
Just
is a
letting you
very
know,
old
Fred,
one.
sorry, just letting you know that we're almost out of time. So maybe just after explaining us about this grave, you can also give us the answer for the white stain in the wall.
Oh, I can tell you straight away. They are oyster shells. Oysters were produced in the River Forth until the late 18th century. And they were very cheap because they were produced in huge quantities. So everybody were eating oysters at the time, rich like poor. But oysters are embedded in walls of many houses here just because people thought this would ward off evil spirits. So the toll booth, being a jail, they probably thought they had enough evil spirits inside. They didn't want any other from outside. Now, the houses want to be protected as well. So houses very often had oyster shells embedded into their walls. They believed that witches couldn't cross running water. So if you take something from running water, then it would prevent any witch to enter your house or to spell any curse on your house. So same for the evil spirits. It's a matter of the waters of baptism. It's connected to that. So on this grave here, you have a memento mori reminding us that death is to come for all of us. So of course there is a skull gnawing on his bone. And if you read that stone, then you can see it is a communal stone for the Society of Coach Drivers in the Canon Gate. And a bit further down, you have the coach, the driver cracking his whip, the horses in front, and they are all crossing a bridge. So a communal grave is for those people who couldn't afford a burial. Coach drivers were not very wealthy people. So when one of them died, it was very difficult for the family to pay for it. Consequently, they would all put a few coins in a box along the year regularly, and then when one of them died, they would use that money in the chest to pay the burial. It was very important for people to make sure they were properly buried or they would go to hell. And in the tradition of Samhain, Christianity brought this idea of heaven and hell. The spread of Christianity, the ancient traditions, the ritual practices were adapted and changed over time. So the 1st of November became the time to remember the dead. The heaven and hell were now part of people's belief. So it was really important to be properly buried. Now, the Celtic culture influenced people, and many Scottish and Irish people took some aspects of Samhain traditions with them in America. So turnips, which used to be carved in Scotland and Ireland because there were not many pumpkins growing up here, were replaced by pumpkins in America. They used to dress up as scary beings to ward off evil spirits, to blend with the dead, so that they would think they were part of the dead and they would let them alone. This was called guising here in Scotland. So the guising became dressing up for fun. Fancy dresses. Today you can be a Wonder Woman or Superman or or even a vampire. But not in those times. You just had to look like a spirit to blend with them. And the trick or treats, well, this comes from this dumb supper, because the supper would be said, the food would be served. Obviously, no one would eat it, and it would be put at the doorstep for the evil spirits to appease them. In case some evil spirits would want to visit the house, he would find this food on the doorstep, would be appeased with it, and then he would leave the family and the house alone. So they were taking those treats. But today, the trick or treats, well, you don't even need to deserve it. And the people dressed up are embodying the mischievous role of the spirits of the days, of the old days. So
Thank
here
you
we
very
go. I
much,
think
Fred.
you're very welcome. I hope everybody had a bit of interesting facts to during this live. I hope you had a good time, and maybe you'll go and visit us sometimes. Oh my God, sorry.
I'm sure everyone really had a good time. It was lovely, and yeah, I think people are really happy with this tour and with all the stories you've told us. So that was lovely. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And if any of you want to come and visit Edinburgh, well, just contact me. I'll be happy to show you around.
Thank you, Fred. Have a lovely afternoon.
Thank you. Bye bye, everybody. Bye. Have a good day.